Hello everyone, this is Terry. Just want to do a video to see how people are going. The other day I did an article on the revenge of the dark passenger. And in that article I talk about there are two wolves that are fighting in us from an ancient Native American proverb. And of course the bottom line is there's a good one and a bad wolf, and the question is which one is going to win. And obviously the answer is the one you feed the most. And dealing with our dark passenger and learning to listen to the light, we have to focus on, okay, which one am I going to feed? Sometimes, we feed the dark passenger, sometimes the light. Sometimes we really want to feed the light, but we keep, throwing table scraps to the dark side, and he stays in there. So today I want to talk about feeding the light passenger. And this is not going to be a super long video, but a couple things that I'd like you to think about. One is that when we stop, relax, breathe, and go to a place where we are in the presence of God. And again, as I mentioned, it doesn't take much. God said, you come near to me, I'll come near to you. And all you have to do is move. Just take a step. And so in feeding the light passenger and starving the dark one, just becoming aware that there is a dark passenger, that there are negative voices that are playing in your head. There are negative recordings that we've picked up over the long years that we've been alive. And I've experienced this obviously firsthand, as I mentioned, from the time I was 2. My stepmom told me that I was worthless, stupid, ugly as my mother was. My mom died when I was 2 years old. And those negative voices just kept building on that. Graduated lower half of my high school class. Don't tell anybody that. So I always had a lot of insecurity. Now I did graduate cum laude from the University of Massachusetts, but those negative voices are still there, just coming after me. So anyways, number one step is recognizing that we do have a dark passenger. We do have negative voices. And as you become aware, it really does diminish its impact if we choose to. And we put ourselves in the presence of God or the divine. And, I described going, relaxing, going down some stairs, out the door into his presence. And for a long time, his presence was, this old guy just kind of staring at me from above. Now I think of God as so large, so vast that I'm just in absolute awe every time. My impression of God now is so bigger than I can describe with words. And so once I get into that presence and become aware of the dark passenger, that dark passenger starts to decrease, and God starts to do stuff in your life that you just can't imagine, like me doing videos or writing articles or getting insights into things, not just scriptures, but also people's lives. And I've developed new friendships. I've repaired and rebuilt some old ones, and God has opened some doors for me to do that. It's been very, very exciting. So that's why I just keep doing this. Secondly, if we're going to feed the light passenger, we've got to take things into our minds that help us do that. The Bible talks about as a man thinks, that's how he's going to go. That's what he's going to be. We got to think about different things. And in Philippians, it talks about whatever is right and noble and praiseworthy, think of these things. Why? We become what we think about. And the light passengers, will help us with that. So we just got to feed it, feed these things. And it just makes, and the more we do that, the more we're going to hear the light passenger, his recordings. So, first two things, become aware. Second, think new things. Put things into your mind that you're going to start thinking about, because you will become what you think about. Thirdly, do good things. When you practice just being happy, smiling, smiling, do that, smile. It changes how you feel. You can't be angry at somebody if you're smiling at them. They can't be angry at you for long if you're smiling at them. They may think you're crazy, but it does things. Doing random acts of kindness. Not even random acts, just be kind. I was listening to a physiologist, and he was just talking about it's not just our brain that gets involved in this, but our whole being, our whole body. We have 13 billion atoms in our body. And when we are happy, they're happy. When we are angry and bitter, unforgiving, stressed out, guess what? Our body is too. It's interesting when we focus on something, you even try it sometime, focus on something that makes you very, very angry. I mean, just, white knuckle, something that somebody said to you, something that someone did to you, and just think about that, and then think about what's going on in your body. Your face gets tense. Your breathing changes, becomes more shallow. Your body produces a protein that tickles your adrenal gland and puts adrenaline into your system. So your muscles tense. You're entering that fight or flight. Your face gets red, changes colors. And I witnessed that in a friend of mine the other day, where his whole demeanor went from being happy and encouraging to just stern and bitter and angry. And I'm thinking, man, that is not healthy. And it's not. Now, can we have experience and opinions and strong opinions and things like that? Absolutely. And it's not really the content of what happened, but it's how we deal with it. And changing how we deal with it. And I'm not talking about stuff and feelings or this kind of thing. I'm just talking about replacing how we deal with it. And one of the ways, that we do that is just acting differently. The Bible talks about put on Christ, put on love, patience, kindness, gentleness, this kind of stuff. Just start acting it out. Just makes a huge difference. And when we stop and relax and start, and spend that time meditating, you'll be surprised of the stuff that pops into your head along those lines. You'll be surprised at the opportunity that God gives. I told a story. I have a neighbor, had a falling out. Long story short, I told him I wanted to play guitar at a certain time. I couldn't do it because I was sick, because I have some health issues. And he got really mad and said, there are two types of people in the world, a talker and a doer. He goes, you, my friend, are a talker. I want nothing to do with you. I'm done with you. And, of course, that blew me away. But what happened was I wasn't even praying, just thinking about an opportunity to serve him, because he's always, he comes home in the house, he's really outside, this kind of thing. And it went about 2 days later, I'm looking out my window, and there's all these stacks of paper in his backyard being blown around. It's early in the morning. And so I'm like, there it is. There it is. And so I ran in the house, put my boots on, all that stuff, brought the dogs in, went over, and found out there were like 12 to 15 books. And just soaking wet, just completely ruined. So I closed them all up, put them in a box that was under his deck, and then I went around and I just rang his doorbell and told him that this is what I found in his backyard. And he just kind of laughed. He said, "Yeah, I put those out there to dry because they got wet under the deck, and of course now they're totally ruined." And he just really appreciated me coming out and doing that, especially in light of, I think, what went down. So I'm telling you this because God is so powerful. The divine is so powerful that he made that rainstorm. And I had apologized to a friend of mine in Colorado because they, in the Midwest, because they got deluged with this horrendous rainstorm. And I had to apologize saying, hey, it was my fault. God did that so that this guy's books would get wet and I could, so we could become friends again. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So as we listen and look for those opportunities to be what we were created to be, kind and loving to other people. And of course, obviously through history, we see, there are very few people that accomplish that, but it can be done. There's a scripture where, we're all familiar with it. If you have faith, you can say to this mountain, get up and move, and it will be thrown into the sea. And I've actually, of course, we always explain that, what he really meant and this kind of stuff. And I'm actually believing now that you're going to think I'm crazy, but if we had faith to say to that mountain, be moved, God can do it. The problem is we just haven't had the faith to believe it. And as my picture of God increases, I hope I have the faith to, to say things or ask for things or think about things. The funny thing about prayer, we don't even have to talk in our prayers. We don't have to say anything. God already knows what we want. Sometimes we don't want anything. Sometimes we pray, we say the words, and they're just words. But God knows what is in our heart. And I mentioned with my friend, I wasn't praying for an open, now just thinking for one. I'm wanting more insight. I want to be clearer and communicate better what I'm thinking about. So the light side has done that. So we've got to be aware of the dark side. We've got to start putting stuff into our heads that are good. We've got to listen to the light side and start doing the things that the divine created us for. I had a friend of mine, Steve Gooch, used to use this illustration all the time. Being something that we are not created to be. Doing stuff that this is not what the divine, what God wanted us to be. It's like combing our hair with a baseball bat. In some of our lives, and I know from my life, I really felt like I was combing my hair with a baseball bat because it wasn't working. It was painful. It wasn't any fun by any stretch of the imagination. So in order for us to live the life that we were literally created to live, we've got to turn off the dark passenger and start feeding the live one, the light passenger. And we'll be amazed. But remember, relax, breathe, spend that time meditating and praying. And when I say praying, I'm talking meditative prayer, where we are just in the presence of God and enjoying that, relaxing our shoulders, our faces, our bodies, the whole 9 yards. So I hope everyone has a great week. I hope this is a little better video than the one that I did the other day. All right, love you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.